What's going on, motivators? We got another video. We got to talk about Trump canceling the trip to Iran for that ceasefire negotiation. Let's get into this.
Telling me over the phone that he has unilaterally canceled Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner's trip to Pakistan to meet with the Iranians. The president says it's not worth his people making the 18-hour flight when he says we have all the cards. He also told me the Iranians can call by phone anytime they want. Our Matt Finn is live in Dubai right now with much more on this breaking new information that sort of changes everything that we thought was going to happen. Matt?
Yeah, here we are again, Aisha. Our team just returned from Pakistan where we were waiting for the second round of peace talks that never manifested. Our understanding was earlier in the week the vice president was ready and willing to fly to Pakistan, but the Iranian delegation was not ready to go at that point. Now today we were waiting for this second round of peace talks to maybe develop, because it was yesterday that White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on your show as you were anchoring told Fox that Iran had asked to meet in person and that the White House was sending a delegation to Pakistan today, but it looks like that is not happening. Now, one thing the Pakistani Prime Minister's office is confirming, it says that the Foreign Minister Arachi did meet with the Iranian delegation today. They did talk about the, quote, current regional situation. So you have to imagine that would likely include the ongoing war. So it's possible there's a scenario where Iran relayed information to Pakistan that Pakistan will now give to the United States. Our understanding was earlier this week, the U.S. delegation was ready and willing to go to Pakistan. They were again today. Now, one of the sticking points here seems to be, of course, enrichment, whether Iran is willing to give up its nuclear program as you.
And that's the thing. We can't let that happen. For us to leave, there got to be a deal that a nuclear dust is ours, no matter what. And I think we should take Cag Island too. This week, Trump should go ahead and just take Cag Island and put that economy in the rut. Send him back to the Stone Age. Not the Iranian people, but the Iranian government. They don't understand. They have no leverage, and they're trying to pretend like they do.
The Iranians dispatch Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner back to Islamabad. The Iranians want to talk. They want to talk in person. And so the president is, as I've said many times to all of you, always willing to give diplomacy a chance. So Steve and Jared will be heading to Pakistan tomorrow to hear the Iranians out. We hope progress will be made, and we hope that positive developments will come from this meeting, and we will see. And the president, the vice president, the secretary of state will be waiting here in the United States for updates, and the vice president, I understand, is on standby and will be willing to dispatch to Pakistan if we feel it's a necessary use of his time.
And yet, Trump stopped it. Why would he stop it? Because the Iranians are not negotiating in good faith. These people are stalling. They're stalling nonstop into who knows, probably put themselves in a position where they think that they still have some kind of power. Like Trump just said, the ball is in our court and in our court only. We control whatever is going on with this. They want to keep playing stupid. Again, the military is on standby with more ships headed towards the Middle East. They asked for this.
Or Pete Hegseth, and the president insists that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Another layer there is whether Iran will allow the United States to remove uranium, enriched uranium, from their country. Now, the Iran ambassador to India posted earlier today on the matter, negotiations can only lead to a proper outcome when our adversaries recognize our nation's right to the peaceful use of nuclear energy, kind of signaling there that Iran is going to fight for its nuclear program. Obviously, this is a developing situation. Aisha, you had an excellent chat with the president, confirming that the trip to the Middle East has been canceled, and we'll be tracking it throughout the night. We'll keep you updated, Aisha.
That's the thing with the Iranians. Who's in charge? You got ambassadors from all over the world touting stuff and X. Who is in charge right now? We have decapitated 3 tiers of leadership. Who's in charge? We don't know. It seems that different factions of the regime who's still within the old set group are not aligned with the ones who are trying to come to the table. They're touting different things right now. So I think it's best in the interest of what President Trump is doing to pull out until we get better news of what they actually want to communicate. And that uranium cannot stay in that country. That's a non-starter.
We will. Okay, Matt Finn, live for us from Dubai. Matt, thank you very much for that live report. Well, let's now get to retired Navy Captain Brent Sadler. He is joining me now live in studio. Brent, we just spoke right before the show with this breaking news. The president saying over the phone to me that he's making this decision because he feels like an 18-hour flight, sending his people there when he doesn't feel like they're going to accomplish much with the Iranians, when the Iranians can just call us here. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's the right move. It's again, this is a negotiation that we're still kind of going back and forth on. The Iranians, I think, are trying to recover some form of leverage. I mean, this note that they brought with them to Pakistan was more like a list of complaints than a serious, like, opening our next phase in a serious ceasefire negotiation, some solution.
I just said that. These people are not negotiating in good faith, and we should not expect any different. What they say behind closed doors, their state media comes and touts something way different. That whole regime needs to go. The entire regime needs to go and let Iran start anew. Again, if they don't take what Trump is giving, we have everything in the Middle East. Let's start bombing again.
Going to probably require, and I think the time is ripe for another round of more strong or forceful diplomacy using the military hammer, the military tools. And I think on the Straits, that's their strongest leverage still, unfortunately. There's going to be a need for demonstration of American might and to demonstrate who really controls access through the Straits, and that's the U.S.
Well, let's talk about who really we're negotiating with. I mean, it's hard to tell who's in charge of Iran right now in the IRGC. There was some reporting that the IRGC sort of pushed out the parliament speaker from negotiating.
And this is what is kind of frustrating to me too. You got people online who are touting that Iran is winning. They have yet to see 1/10 of what the U.S. military has to offer. And I think eventually we will have to show them that the little shenanigans in the Straits cannot be tolerated and fully take over everything in that area.
And the president has said over and over again that Iran's leadership is divided, that there's a lot of infighting, and we really don't know who's in charge. But Ghalibaf, the parliament speaker, pushed back on that on Twitter. He wrote, "In Iran, there are no radicals or moderates. We are all Iranian and revolutionary, and with the iron unity of the nation and government, with complete obedience to the supreme leader of the revolution, we will make the aggressor criminal regret his actions." Well, who do you think? Like, what do you think?
I mean, this is such scam. Like, anyone could see through those people. They're touting lies. If what they were saying was so true, why not let the people inside your own country speak for themselves? That you have a state media who's speaking for them. And why turn the internet off so that you won't show the atrocity that is being committed in your own country? The people who cry for Palestine, I don't hear anything about Iran. Why is that? Why is there no cry for the Iranian people from the same Americans going and protest, stopping streets and all of those things? Why are there no cries for what's going on in Iran right now, especially for the females? The women's group, crickets, nothing. But everybody was up and about talking about Palestine. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I think these people are just picking and choosing who they want to fight for. And it's amazing to me how this stuff is constructed. It's almost there is a propaganda behind it.
Is going on inside Iran? Who is in charge?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think it really should change or temper the approach the U.S. military is being put to use in the region. This is part of the design. When you want to try to provide an opportunity for the Iranian people to take back their country, there is going to be this fracture of the regime. And that regime, by the way, is probably less than 20% of the population. So when they talk about everyone's united, it's a fraction of the overall population that is fed up with this theocratic dictatorship and terror network that they've been living under for far too long.
So we're moving these naval assets we have now into the Persian Gulf in the area. And now the Navy can go after these fast boats that have become a real big problem. Of course, the Iranian Navy is pretty much at the bottom of the sea, but you've got these fast boats that, perhaps we could see them laying down more mines. There is the threat of that.
Like I said, the fast boats, we all knew what happened to Venezuela with their fast boats for drugs. A lot of them went to the bottom of the ocean too. They were fast. They couldn't outrun the U.S. military missiles, blown up to pieces. And that's exactly what's going on with that third destroyer making its way out there. Anything that moves and they tell you don't is getting blown up.
This is the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, announcing it this week. Watch.
Part of what the president is threatening is ensuring if there's attempts to recklessly and irresponsibly lay more mines, we're going to deal with that. It's a violation of the ceasefire. So transit is occurring, much more limited than anybody would like to see, and with more risk than people would like to see. But that's because Iran is doing irresponsible things with small, fast boats.
So you're the expert at this, Brent. I mean, how is this going to work? Are we going to be able to patrol this very large Iranian coast?
The short answer is yes, and we've had the capacities from day one to actually identify and go after those small boats. And for the viewers, look at the video that we've been putting out going after the narco-terrorist boats in the Caribbean.
Venezuela.
Think of those are the type of threats. They're not going to sink a tanker. They're not going to sink a container ship. They are a harassment. They can be identified and seen fairly early. Now we have more forces there, notably the Marines, because now that you can put Marines on U.S. flagships, like there are 4 right now that could get underway with U.S. merchant mariners, you could put the Marines on board so that if, for example, these small boats or drones get close enough, well, the Marines have crew-served weapons to deal with that.
All right, Marines. I mean, this is stuff we do constantly. Place them out there. Yo, those crew-served weapons, I'm saying. Yep. F around and you will find out. Those Marines do not play. Hoorah.
Perhaps the way that we're going to get them to cave is, and State just put out that they are now targeting some Iran's oil network in China. Are we going to get them to cave by taking some of these measures, hitting them with more sanctions, going after their oil?
I think so. I mean, this is the genius of the blockade, and that is, if it works, it applies economic pressure on the Iranian regime, and it forces more trade to the United States. It's long overdue that our allies and partners come and buy American energy instead of from very risky or...
Long story short, we can't trust the Iranian, hence President Trump pulling back on the whole diplomatic talk for the second round. These people, until they come in with good faith, I don't think we should send anyone over there. Squeeze them until they squirrel. That is my logic pertaining to what's going on. So let me know what you think inside the comments. All right, motivators, if you enjoy what you've seen and heard, please like, comment, share, but most importantly, subscribe to A Black Veteran's Perspective. Stay motivated.